Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm really glad you could be here. So look, here's a question. How do you find the right and perfect balance in life and in wealth management? Well, it's not an easy thing to do. And to help us be able to find the right direction, we brought the guy who wrote the book literally on the topic, Rocco Carriero. Now, he's a comprehensive wealth management specialist in working with business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs. He's a chartered retirement planning counselor, accredited portfolio manager advisor, and holds an MBA in accounting, in banking and finance with over 20 years of experience. Rocco has appeared on Fox, NBC, and his financial insights have been featured in publications including the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fortune, Wealth Management Magazine, as well as many other local and regional publications as well. And Rocco is a member of the Columbus Citizens Foundation and served on the board of directors of the American Heart Association, as well as Southampton Business Alliance, End Hospice, and Westhampton Beach Performing Arts Center, and serves as the vice president of the Integrated Medical Foundation. Rocco, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Ty.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate what you've done, especially with the book, because I think it hits on a major chord with this balance between life and wealth management. So talk to me a little bit about it. What was your insight for wanting to write a book on and help us solve this problem?
Well, Ty, about probably around 10 years ago or so, I really took a look at all the business owner clients that we were working with, and I saw some different common trends and elements. And what we noticed was that that there was three important areas to a person's financial life. It was or their life in general, right? There was themselves as an individual, it was themselves as a family person, and then, of course, there was the financial aspect of their life. So those are the three things that seem to be very, very important to business owners as well as other people. And what we noticed was that the business owners that focused in those three areas, themselves as an individual, their family, and their finances, those people that paid attention to all three areas were significantly happier than the ones that just focused on one of the chords that we refer to as chords, one of the areas or two of the areas, but the ones that really focused in the three areas were truly the wealthiest of all the clients that we worked with.
It's interesting. So individual, family, and financial makes perfect sense to me. You work with a lot of business owners. Where does the running of a business fit in? Does that kind of fit into the financial core?
It does, right? So the financial aspect of the person's life ties in with their business, right? So their business is the piece that generates the finances, and that's where that falls into.
Why have you found that this is so important to have these three chords being in alignment?
The reason why I found that having them all in alignment was when they weren't in alignment, that's where people had a lot of personal problems, whether if they were financially successful and they had a ton of money, but they were lacking in one area. So let's just say that they weren't paying attention to themselves, and they might have just let their health go, and they just, in and out of the hospital, lots of medical problems. And just because they weren't paying attention to themselves, their personal interest or hobbies or themselves physically, or a business owner might have been really financially successful, but and paid attention to themselves, but they had lots of trouble with their family, maybe married 2, 3, 4 times, weren't paying attention to that. And so that's the reason. That's the reason for the three chords, is that each chord individually is not as strong unless the ones that are the business owners that focused at making sure that all three were tied together tight were really the ones that demonstrated true wealth.
What kind of impact have you seen when people have imbalance in one or all these areas to actually getting imbalance?
The impact to not paying attention to any one of the three areas could be catastrophic, right? If you're not paying attention to yourself and your health, you could end up by dying. If you're not paying attention to your family, that could mean that you could destroy, not only destroy your family, but also destroy your wealth. You can very easily get cut in half, right? And that certainly happens when you're not paying attention to those things.
What about finding that? I mean, it's not just a matter of being good in all areas. You have to find balance between the three. So what does that look like when somebody has really a good balance between these three chords?
That is a great question. And it is real hard to achieve perfect balance, right? There's no such thing as perfect balance. And it's not like it's going to be 33.33.33 straight across to those three different chords. It's the key here, the key takeaway is that it's planning, right? So as long as there's some type of planning in each of the three areas and there's some work that's being put in, it's going to strengthen those chords, and it's going to, one of those chords, not all three chords are going to be equally as strong, but if there's some work being put into all three, that's what's going to keep it, together.
So you have something that you say that's work to live and live to work. Give me some more insight on that.
Well, I think that we all, as you go through life, right, you always have something that you're kind of looking forward to. So whether you're in kindergarten, you're looking forward to middle school, then high school and college, and then your business. What I mean by that is that sometimes business owners kind of forget about what's next in life, and with that, they lose focus as to why they even went into business in the first place. And so if you're just focused in one area exclusively, that really, that if you're just focused in the work part of your life, then you're completely out of balance, and that you're actually working to live. Actually, you're living to work versus working to live, and that's a common problem that we do see with business owners are out there. They're just so focused on their work that's the reason for their existence, as opposed to saying, okay, well, I think all business owners go into the idea of forming their own business for financial freedom, for time freedom, for relationship freedom, for freedom of purpose, and then the ones that aren't paying attention to it just kind of, they get overwhelmed with it, and they forget about all the reasons why they went into business in the first place.
Why do you think it's so challenging for people to be able to find balance between these three areas?
It is, I think today it is really hard to find balance in anything, right? If you look at the political spectrum, either people are very far one way or very far the other. Everything seems to be, there's really no moderation right now. It seems to be like all or nothing for whatever reason. So if people are all in with their work, then they're all in and nothing else really matters. And so, the idea of the book, The Three Chords Approach to Life and Wealth Management for Business Owners, was to have people pay attention to the other areas besides business, or if they're just focused on one of the other two chords, not business, but maybe pay more attention to their business. All three, not one or the other is more important than the other. All three, paying attention to all three in 20 plus years of working with business owners does create true wealth, and the people that I've seen experience the greatest amount of happiness.
Rocco, your specialist is wealth management. So how does all this tie together with wealth management?
It does tie in with wealth management, right? So if we do a really great job of helping our clients accumulate more and more wealth over time, but we don't talk about the other areas, we then, as wealth managers, financial advisors, in my opinion, aren't really doing the full scope of the work that we do. Financial planning is more than just the actual aspects of accumulating wealth. It's living out somebody's full life, and with that, if somebody is just focused on the numbers, they're really not getting the true full benefit of doing true comprehensive financial planning.
What do you think? What's advice? Being in your position where you are, and then also writing the book. Like, what's your best advice to help people kind of get balance in these three areas? Because some people have neglected all three. So, like, what's the keys to be able to do well, succeed, and also get balance in all three?
The key is actually planning, goal planning, right? So you can take out a yellow pad piece of paper, and you could write on that pad of paper, break it out into three areas. You can write, business, financial, family, and then self, and just jot down some notes as to things that you think you may be lacking, things that you might think you're doing well, and then things that you'd like to really improve on. If you do that in the three different areas, you're going to put some work into doing some type of planning. And if you just do that alone, you're going to have a better year this year than you did last year. Something as simple as that.
What about goal setting? Do you recommend goal setting in these three areas?
I'm a big proponent of goal setting, and I'm a big proponent of tying measurables to goal setting. So if it's financial goals, you need to know where you stand today. That ties in with financial planning. How could you grow your wealth? if you don't even know where you're starting. Or if you're looking at self, write down, what are you doing? What are your hobbies and your interests? What else do you want to do? Travel, whatever it may be. And then of course, family. A lot of times people spend, they'll spend very little time planning out what they want to do with their family. So you got to write these different things down that you want to do. It's, I think we live in a world that everybody wants spontaneity. Everybody wants to be spontaneous with everything. But to be truly successful in the three areas that we're talking about, if you're not doing planning around them, it's nearly impossible to get it all done.
Makes perfect sense. What about contributing factors to success? What have you found are kind of what makes and breaks? I mean, setting the plan is one thing, setting the goals, and then giving a timeline for those goals. But what are some of the contributing factors you've seen that really account to how much success you'll have?
I think you got to put down some realistic goals. If you never had, if you never did a family trip before, and you start writing down unrealistic goals of saying, okay, we're going to go away once a week or once a month, and you haven't done a family vacation in 5 years, just start with one thing. So put down, you got to put down realistic goals, things, and just kind of start even at the smallest area. Start by doing something.
So do you have any advice from which of the three sections to actually start from?
I would say that, the area that people really spend the least amount of time in is themselves as an individual. And if you spend time at trying to improve yourself and make yourself better, that will then roll over and into your family and also your business. So I would say start with yourself first. It sounds kind of selfish. Nobody wants to do that, but just kind of understand where you stand as an individual. What are things that you can do to make yourself better? And by doing that, those two other chords are going to get stronger as well.
So what are the things to focus on yourself wise? Do you really focusing on health? Are you focusing on, happiness? Are you focusing on, like what kind of things when you're talking about these three chords and we talk about the individual beyond health, what other aspects of individual are you looking to improve?
I would say personal and professional development. What else are you learning? How are you growing? If you're still working, are you working towards being the best person that you could be within your business or your role within the company that you might be working with? Physical fitness is another important area. Hobbies and interests. Things that you'd like to do accomplish for yourself. I mean, if you think about as yourself as an individual with goals, what is it that you really want for yourself in the short term, in the intermediate term, and in the long term? Do you want to be philanthropic? What does that look like? There's a lot of different things, and I think everybody has a different place in their heart as to where they think that they should be doing things. And by just taking out this pad and paper, writing down self and things that you want to do, it's gonna help. And so I would say that should be number one.
What about family? What are some things to keep in consideration when you're trying to work on that, the family thread of this?
The family thread, and so being in the wealth management business, I can tell you that in working with lots of families, people remember experiences and not material items. So family, you think about what, let's just we'll use a professional golfer, for example, and we'll use Phil Mickelson because I'm a lefty golfer. He's a lefty golfer. Do you think that Phil Mickelson's kids would like for him to basically be able to transfer his golf clubs or transfer his golf skill to them? Probably the skill, right?
Yeah.
Or you think about what most people remember are the experiences that they have with family and friends. So from a planning perspective, like some of the things that I do personally is that I do dad and daughter weekend every year. Once a year, take my daughter away. We go and we do some fun things in New York City, and we do the same thing for my son. We do dad and son weekend, and and we have a great time. But these are planned events. We kind of know what we're doing. This is where we're going. And the only way to make it happen is that to happen consistently is you got to do around planning. And I need to do a bit, I'm not perfect. And I wrote the book on the 3 chords here. Right. And I need to do more. I know that I need to do more things with my spouse. And so we're trying to do more things together, but it does require planning and it requires energy to be put into it.
What about the financial cord? What are some things you can really do to make headway there and be able to kind of create balance?
Sometimes people say that money isn't everything, and it really isn't anything, but money is required to do a lot of the different things that we're talking about, right? So money is is an important thing to allow you to do more of the things that you want to do. Money helps to create freedom of time, helps to create freedom of relationship. It helps to create freedom of your purpose. So with the financial cord is that you got to know where you stand today, right? Your assets, liabilities, income, expenses, take a look at the overall picture, know where you want to go. So understanding what you're going to need from a financial standpoint. So like to create real financial independence, how much are you really going to need to have in terms of income at some point down the road? And then you need to develop a financial plan around getting there.
How do you really create this balance? I mean, even just running a business and trying to run a business and maintain a family and maintain your health, and it's an uphill battle, I think, for a lot of business owners. So what are the keys in researching this book? What are you finding people are really doing to succeed in achieving this balance amongst these 3 chords?
What I found that people are doing is the people that set up a calendaring system, so they create their own model calendar, and they put that onto the calendar first before anything else. So the people that put on their exercise every morning at 5:00, they block out in January, right, what they're going to be doing, their family trips, their when are they going to be working. So the people that actually take a calendar and utilize it and follow the calendar, they're the ones that are actually get all that stuff in. Because if you don't put it on the calendar, and I think we all know this, right? If you don't block it out on the calendar, it's not going to happen. It just isn't.
What about wealth management? Let's dive in a little bit more because that's really your expertise. What are some things that you think entrepreneurs are doing wrong when it comes to wealth management?
I just had a conversation with a client. This is a business owner that grosses probably in excess of $10 million a year in gross revenues. But the question is, how much does he actually keep? He pays all of his employees, pays his taxes, pays his suppliers, pays everybody. And at the end of the day, I would say, based upon the $10 million that he does keep, he actually ends up by saving or keeping probably somewhere around somewhere in the 1% range. So for every dollar that he collects, he keeps maybe 1 penny, which is not really good. That's a lot of aggravation, a lot of stress, and a lot of worry to only keep maybe 100,000 of the 10 million. And what we talked about is that he needs to try to focus on paying himself first. And then after paying himself first, then pay all the suppliers and pay everything. And that he has to build that into his pricing. Because if you're grossing $20 million and you're not keeping very much of it, who cares? You're grossing $20 million. You'd be better off grossing 500,000 and keeping 100,000. So that's a common thing that a lot of business owners go wrong with, is that they don't build into their equation and actually have some type of a system and process to keep part of the revenue that they help to create.
What about cost-cutting expenses, things of that nature? Like in that situation with this guy, do you advise him and help him do a hard look at his business to figure out what could be cut, what could be adjusted, what he doesn't need? Because it seems like in a lot of those situations, like that's what's needed.
When we talked about paying yourself first and carving off more than that 1 penny on the dollar, that was his initial reaction was, I got to cut expenses more. And I said, well, hold on. Before we start going to cut expenses, let's talk about how you can actually gross more revenue and or revise how the clients are paying, and potentially, because he's got a great background in accounting. And so that was his initial thought, was cut expenses. And if, that is important to take a look at, of course. But after you've gone through that, you've got to do one or two things. You might not be charging enough. So business owners really need to be taking a look at not only cutting their expenses, because sometimes cutting your expenses might be cutting away from your growth. And so, you got to be thinking about how you could maybe gross more. So more gross, right? More gross with leveled off expenses helps to increase greater profitability.
What else about, when you have somebody like that, what are you doing to help them save and properly plan for retirement?
Well, the business owners that we work with, what we try to do is we ask the question always, how much do you keep? How much do you gross? How much do you actually keep? And then we back that into some type of a percentage. And a lot of business owners don't save anything, right? They say, yeah, but I'm taking income from the business. What I'm most interested in as a financial advisor is, after you pay yourself to cover your expenses, how much are you actually keeping? What is yours after you've paid yourself and you've paid everybody and everything? And that's something that business owners should really be focused on.
Do you follow profit first? Like, do you believe in that strategy of profit first?
I am a believer in the concept of profit first, and I believe that whether if you have your own company or if you're working for somebody, you have an opportunity to go into a 401k plan. That and this is basically what I've seen. The business owners and people that save 10% of what they're actually earning, those are the ones that they actually create financial independence. But the ones that save 30% or keep 3 dimes out of 10 or 30 pennies out of the 100, they're the ones that really become wealthy. That is the secret that I've seen over and over and over. If somebody could figure out how to adjust their lifestyle expenses to live their life and save up to 30%, they're the ones that are really able to accumulate serious wealth.
So that's really the key fit that you've seen, is being able to set aside 30% of what you're making to be able to really achieve the ultimate wealth.
It's hard, not many, so if you're that example that I gave just a couple of minutes ago of saving 1%, go to, try to work your way to get to, 3%, then 5%, then 8%, then 10%. And all the while, you still have to be focused on investing in your business to grow your business. And then over time, you might be able to get to that 30% number. It's not gonna happen overnight.
Yeah, it's the same way with margins. It sounds like with the guy you use in a company, it's not like he's going to go from 1% to 20 overnight. It's a lot of little adjustments to get himself there, where he probably won't even notice if he's making those little adjustments.
That's what I found, is that, just do things just a little bit differently, look at it from a different perspective. You got to prioritize. You got to put yourself in there first, because you see how fast time goes by. If you're not, if you say, well, I'll worry about myself later, 10 years goes by quick. And a lot of times people end up by not saving anything.
That's amazing. What other have you seen working from entrepreneurs? What other are some successful, interesting ways that you've seen them to achieve balance in these 3 chords?
They got to work with a trusted professional, right? They got to work with somebody. A lot of times business owners, we think that we're superheroes and that we could figure everything out ourselves. And, a lot of the really successful business owners that we work with, we get to see that they're excellent delegators. So business owners or individuals need to select a financial professional, a financial advisor that has their back, that's going to be looking out for their best interest. So you gotta find a trusted professional that you like, that you trust, that's going to work with you, that's going to keep you on track, that you're going to be sitting with at a table a few times a year. Those are the people that usually achieve the greatest success. The ones that are working with trusted professionals. You got to have a coach, right? Even the greatest golfers in the world still have a golf coach.
So what professionals are you looking for on the finance side?
Well, you got to have a trusted team, right? You think about it, and I saw this, if you remember during the crises of the Paycheck Protection Plan, what was happening in the spring of 2020. Business owners that had the trusted team, they had their banker already in place prior to the COVID crises. They had their attorney in place. They had their accountant in place. They had their payroll administrator in place. They had this group of professionals that they knew them. Everybody knew each other very, very well. And when the Paycheck Protection Plan came out and people were scrambling to try to get their application in, the ones that had great relationships in place prior to the crises, they're the ones that got their paycheck protection loan done the quickest and with the least amount of stress. The ones that didn't have a banker relationship, they didn't have a good payroll administrator, they didn't have a good accountant or a good attorney, they struggled, and they probably, a lot of them missed that first tranche of the Paycheck Protection Plan dollars, and they were really frustrated.
So it's a matter of having, on the personal side, what kind of financial experts do you think somebody really has to have?
You gotta have a financial advisor, right? That's really, really important. You have to have a good accountant, you gotta have a good attorney, you gotta have a good banker, right? A lot of times we think, people use online banking. Well, you gotta have a banker that you can call. And if you need to borrow money, you gotta be assured that the bank's going to come up with the dollars, obviously within reason. They have to come up with the criteria. But when you dial that banker and you say, banker, I need a credit line set up, you want people going to work for you right away, like an extension of your office. All the people that I described need to be an extension of a business owner's office, almost like they were down the hall.
I love that. Great advice today. Rocco, where can everybody go if they're interested in learning more about your book, about what you can do to help them on the financial side, or what you can do to help them with achieving balance in these three areas?
Well, you can go to our website, and that's roccoacarriero.com. So it's ROCCOA, CARRIERO.com. And that's the three chords approach to life and wealth management's website.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ty.
So everybody, this is one of the biggest things we all struggle with as entrepreneurs, is finding the balance here between, our financial health, between our individual health, between our family, and the business is really part of that financial side. You throw all these together, it's really hard to find balance. But when you find balance, when you're healthy, when you're strong as an individual, when you have a strong family and you make time and you create the experiences for them where everybody's happy, and then you have this financial balance where your business is doing well and you're also saving properly for retirement and you have that peace of mind, that's when you find real happiness in your life. If you're interested in finding that balance, then make sure you visit Rocco's website. There's a tremendous amount of resources that can help you, as well as accessing his book, which will give you the step-by-step to be able to succeed in this area. And in order to get that, make sure you visit the website roccocarriero.com. That's Rocco, ROCCOA, roccoacarriero.com. So it's Rocco, ROCCO, the letter A, Carriero, which is CARRIERO.com. That's one more time, Rocco, ROCCOA, then CARRIERO.com. I'm also going to put that link on the show resources page to make it easy to access. Make sure you check that out today so you can achieve life and wealth management balance. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.